Today, we're diving into one of the most incredible questions in all of science. How can our experiences, especially from when we were kids, literally get under our skin and change our biology for the rest of our lives?
I mean, really think about that for a second. How can something that happened to you as a child, an experience, an interaction, leave a tangible, physical mark on your body that affects you as an adult? For the longest time, this felt like a total mystery. But now, science is finally starting to connect the dots. You know, for decades, we were all stuck in that old nature versus nurture debate. Is it our genes or our environment? But it turns out that was the wrong question all along. The real story, and frankly, the much more fascinating one, isn't about which one wins. It's about how they talk to each other. How our life experiences, our nurture, can actually reach in and change the way our genetic blueprint, our nature, gets read. So yeah, we're taking a very old question and finally giving it a new answer, one that's rooted in hard biology. And what's so incredible is that for the first time ever, we can actually see the molecular nuts and bolts of it all. We can pinpoint the biological pathways that connect what happens to us to what happens in us. And you might be surprised to hear that the first huge clues didn't come from studying people. They came from watching mother rats and their babies. Okay, so what researchers noticed is that rat moms kind of have different parenting styles. You've got your high-care mothers, like the one on the left, who are constantly licking and grooming their pups. And then you have low-care mothers, on the right, who just don't do it as much. It seems like such a small thing, right? But the consequences were absolutely staggering. Get this, the pups who got all that attention and care, they grew up to be calm, relaxed adults that handled stress really well. But the pups from the low-care mothers, they grew up to be anxious, jumpy adults with a hair-trigger stress response. It was like the mother's behavior had literally programmed her pup's personality for life. But how? The answer wasn't a change in their actual DNA code. That was identical. Nope, the answer was in something that acts kind of like a dimmer switch on top of their genes. So this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? How can something as simple as a mother's touch physically and permanently rewire a pup's brain? This is where behavior and biology collide. And the answer has a name: epigenetics. The prefix epi means above or on top of. So this is the science of all the stuff that happens on top of our DNA. It's not about rewriting the genetic code itself, but about controlling which parts of that code get read and which parts get ignored. A key way this happens is a process called DNA methylation. Now, don't let the name scare you. Just think of it exactly like that dimmer switch we talked about. It's a tiny chemical tag that can clamp on to a gene. And when it's there, it turns the volume down on that gene, sometimes silencing it completely. So check out how this whole biological chain reaction works. It's so elegant. First, all that licking from the mom boosts serotonin in the pup's brain. That serotonin surge then triggers a process that literally scrubs those methyl dimmer tags off of a key gene that regulates stress. With those tags gone, that gene is now switched on. That means the brain can build way more receptors that act like brakes for the stress response. And more brakes mean a better feedback loop, which means a much calmer, less stressed out adult rat. It's a direct line from a mother's touch to a lifelong change in the brain.
Okay, so we've seen this incredibly powerful mechanism in rats. But that leads us to the biggest question of all, right? Does our own childhood, our own upbringing, leave these same kinds of epigenetic fingerprints on our human brains? To find out, a team of scientists did a very difficult but unbelievably important study. They looked at brain tissue from 3 different groups of people who had passed away: suicide victims who had a documented history of severe childhood abuse, suicide victims who had no history of abuse, and a control group of people who had died suddenly from other causes. And what they found? Well, it was a stunning, almost tragic echo of those rat experiments written right there in our human cells. Just look at this comparison side by side. It's remarkable. The neglected rat pups had more methylation, that dimmer switch turned on their stress gene. Well, so did the humans who had suffered childhood abuse. The rats had fewer stress receptors because of it. And again, so did the humans. Both ended up with a heightened stress response. The biological signature was identical. So let that sink in. The exact same epigenetic mark found in those neglected rats was also found in the brains of humans who suffered abuse as children. This was the proof. The experience of a difficult childhood can leave a specific, measurable, molecular scar on the brain. Nurture was literally sculpting nature.
So, what do we do with this? This discovery has truly profound implications for how we think about everything from mental health to public policy. So why does this matter so much? Because it proves that childhood adversity isn't just a bad memory. It can become a long-lasting molecular scar. It gives us a concrete biological basis for why our early environments are so critical. In the most literal sense imaginable, our nurture becomes our nature, shaping how we respond to the world for the rest of our lives.
Now, of course, this is just the beginning. As the original researchers would be the first to tell you, this is a mind-bogglingly complex field. We are just starting to scratch the surface of how our lives and our genes are constantly in conversation with each other.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. We now have scientific proof that our experiences don't just shape our minds, they can actually rewrite our biology. Knowing that, how should it change the way we think about childhood, about community, and about our responsibility to care for one another?